Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Hemmings Hot Rod BBQ. I am Mike Musto, your host, with Mr. Chris Kersting, the president and CEO of SEMA. Chris, how are you doing today?
Doing all right, Mike. Good to be with you.
So, I think saying you're probably crazy busy right now is somewhat of an understatement. Would that be correct?
That'd be correct. We're about 3 weeks out from the SEMA show, so this is a busy time of year for us, and we got a lot of other stuff going on here at SEMA too.
So, how has it been? Because we all know that 2020 was a wash for just about everything that we did. And now we're here, 2021. People have been talking about the SEMA show, jonesing to get out, jonesing to get back with our automotive populace that we all know and love. How has that been navigate? It's now we have the variant, then COVID is still somewhat with us and whatnot. How has that been dealing with that, with
Yeah,
SEMA and the show itself?
yeah, it's been an exciting year on the one hand because we were coming out of COVID in the spring and a lot of momentum, and we had really tremendous registration for the show
Hmm.
coming out of the spring into the summer. Uh, the surge, the Delta variant surge, really threw some confusion into the mix for us. So it's just been a lot of work to help people understand. Yes, there will be a SEMA show this year. Help them understand what the requirements would be for the SEMA show and so forth. And in a lot of ways, that stuff was developing as we were going
Sure.
through the months of August and September and so forth. So it's been a more challenging year than normal. At the end of the day, we're about 3 weeks out. We have close to 1,400 companies, exhibitors, manufacturers planning to exhibit there. That's exciting. We have about 40,000 plus
Wow.
resellers, or what we would call the buyers, who come
Yep.
to the show to see all the great new products and bring them back and have them available for all the gearheads out there. We have 40,000 or so registered to show up. So I think people at 3 weeks out are seeing that there is going to be a SEMA show, and they're starting to get excited about it. And I think a lot of folks who are kind of on the fence are deciding that they're going to show up, and it's going to be a great show.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I know a lot of the people that I talked about, in the beginning of the year, they were somewhat hesitant, and there was a big, thing with all car shows. Um, but the fact is that people are jonesing to get out. SEMA is the premier automotive event, really, one of the premier automotive events in the world. And, you try to explain it to people that have never been to SEMA, and I'm like, you can get to SEMA on Tuesday. Bring your most comfortable shoes. You will walk around for 4 days straight. You'll probably walk 5 miles a day and you will still not see everything.
It really is kind of a unique coming together of the automotive culture. It's all the cool automotive lifestyles, all the different ways that people love to enjoy their cars and trucks. Every different segment, every different hobby, uh,
Hmm.
and um, and I think the thing that makes it especially unique is that it's a showing, a demonstration of what's new. Everything that all those folks who are in that business, and most of the folks who are in the business are enthusiasts. That's where they came from, and so
Yep.
they really are the people with the best finger on the pulse of what the trends are, what the cool new things are, where people are headed. And so you come to the SEMA show, and it's really a trend spotting opportunity for both businesses and for people who love cars and trucks. So there aren't too many places that happens.
Right.
It's very unique that way, and we know that that's part of the reason that people find it a must attend event.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, because you took over the reins of SEMA in 2002. Is that correct?
That's
Somewhere in the
correct.
neighborhood.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved with SEMA, and what kind of drew you to the organization as a whole?
Yeah, so great question. SEMA is a lot of people don't know exactly what a trade association is, right? But to kind of give you a sense of it, back in the 1960s, when you had a bunch of guys out here, particularly in the West, who were manufacturing a lot of cool speed equipment, they came to realize that they could get some things done working together that they can't get done necessarily
Yep.
so well working independently. And one of the really important things that trade associations do for their members is government affairs advocacy. So trying to make sure that the laws and the regulations are reasonable, favorable to both the industry and to, in our case, the enthusiast. And so
Sure.
from the very start, one of the strong values that people had in participating in SEMA was this effort to make sure that our industry and our hobby was safe with regard to government affairs, regulations, laws, and so forth. So we built that out over the years to become something really important. Well, that was really my place that I joined in to SEMA. So as a young guy, now 30 plus years ago, I was fortunate to start up with a law firm that was general counsel to SEMA, to NHRA, to PWA, a number of organizations. And we were doing their legal work, but we were also doing their Washington, D.C. government affairs work. And then we built that out to take care of all the states as well. And I did that for really about 10 years before working with the board of directors, moved out here to Los Angeles, where SEMA is based, and moved into that executive VP role to get ready to move into the CEO role. So I've been in the CEO role since 2002, as you say, and it's been a great ride. We've done some really cool stuff, both for the industry, for the enthusiast, and we're looking forward to continuing that work.
So when you first came on, right, and you mentioned you signed on with a law firm that was running, representing NHRA and things like that. Was that a factor in you joining that firm? Like, are you an automotive enthusiast from the word go, or is that something you were like, oh wow, this is something that I think I can get behind, or what? Did that have a factor in you joining that firm, or was that just kind of a bonus?
That's a great question. It was a bonus, and I actually had other interests. I wanted to be a commercial real estate mogul.
Wow, okay, fair enough.
That was where I was originally headed. The timing of the matter in 1989, the commercial real estate market was kind of collapsing. So I was fortunate to start up with a law firm where we had these clients. And what really kind of turned my head, and it was you could say formative for me. We were working for this association, but really the association was a collection of small and medium-sized businesses in a world of Goliaths. So you could say that our industry had to contend with the likes of Congress, the EPA, the Department of Transportation, the car makers, the OEMs. And so we were there going to bat for them to try and help them with their problems and their challenges with those huge organizations and government agencies. And what I learned pretty quickly was we could make a great difference for a bunch of folks who really needed help. And they were really, really grateful for that kind of help. And I guess different people are motivated by different things, but I found I was really motivated by what it meant to wake up every day and go off to do something that was going to make a really positive difference for all these small businesses. And that became a passion for me. And I talk about it a lot when we're talking to people who might come to work for SEMA to say, you have different passions. And one of them, I look for people who really get a kick out of, as I like to say, people say, what gets you out of bed in the morning? I ask the question, what makes you stay and miss dinner at night?
That's a great question.
Yeah, sure. And so if you really you feel that dedication and that passion to helping out, it's not a hard thing to do. So that was my story. That's how I got involved, and it's been a really cool road. And I've been able to enjoy being around people who are really passionate about what they do, that's such a big difference. I mean, I could be working in any kind of business where it isn't such a, people just don't care quite as much. Sure. And so I learned a lot of people in our industry say, they've hardly worked a day in their life because what they do is the thing they love. And and that shows, and it's great to be around people like that.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. I think that, this industry in particular, when you like, I get a lot of questions of how did you get into this industry and everything else. And I was that person that sat in a cubicle at an investment bank for a million years and absolutely loathed and hated it, and then quit cold turkey back in 2004, 2001, something around that. And I was like, the hell with this. I'm going to go play with cars for a living. And of course, my wife looked at me and said, is that a really good idea? But it's now, 20 years later, and it was the best decision that I ever made, because I think that when you talk about that passion breeds passion, right? And if you are around people that truly love what they do, especially in this industry, it just motivates you to do better at everything that you do. Yeah. Which has been a fantastic, so far it's been a fantastic ride. It's been wonderful. As you've seen a lot now. If you came on to SEMA in 2002, and the ages that we're at, we've seen the progression of automotive technology as well, right? We've gone from carburation to fuel injection, and now we're going into electrification and everything else. So, and the government, especially the EPA, is trying to crack down on all of this stuff. And I think that that's where a lot of people don't understand how important SEMA is, right? When we start talking about things like the Clean Air Act, and how the RPM Act is there to kind of combat that and kind of really represent the enthusiast. If you don't mind, talk to us a little bit about that, because I think that's just a gray area for a lot of enthusiasts. And if we could clarify exactly what SEMA is doing to help combat that, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. So it's interesting. From the start, California really was the first place that started regulating vehicle emissions, and so got under the hood, so to speak. And it wasn't too long after that the federal government, through the Clean Air Act, put into place the same sort of requirements for car makers to deliver vehicles to the road that were certified to certain emissions levels. Right. And they weren't thinking about the modification industry. They basically put those rules out, and they said, and once that vehicle hits the road, never shall you modify it, tamper it with it, change, do anything to it that would take it out of compliance. Well, we had to come along and say, hey, wait a minute. There's a lot of great, there are a lot of great products that folks are making that can improve performance and keep the vehicle within emissions compliance. And so we set up a program through which the manufacturers in our industry are able to test and demonstrate compliance. We do it through the agency out here in California first, what's called the California Air Resources Board. Once you have your certification through ARB, the federal EPA allows you to sell product in the states that they have jurisdiction over. So that was our history. And over the years, it's always been a matter of trying to make sure that we keep those channels open, that the approaches that the regulators are using don't make that unnecessarily difficult and so forth. Yeah. And it's a constant battle. It really is. And I think today we've gotten to a place where the federal EPA kind of looking at some of the more creative ways, you might say, that folks have been achieving performance. I think the Volkswagen diesel situation really kind of woke the government up and said, when you get into the tuning and the reworking what's happening with the computer that's controlling these vehicles, that and doing it in a way that takes the vehicle out of emissions compliance, that got their attention. And sadly, we had a lot of folks who were putting videos out demonstrating that they were doing this and that, and so it drew the EPA's attention. Now we have EPA in kind of an overreach mode. Several years ago now, they came out and said, we have an interpretation of the language in the Clean Air Act that it's not legal to convert a vehicle that's been certified for street use by the OEM to convert it for racing.
Right.
And we've been these laws have been in place for 50, 60 years, right?
That's right.
So we go in and we say, hey guys, you can't be serious about this. I mean, NASCAR has stock car in its acronym.
Literally, yeah.
It's like, this isn't something that has been being done, under the radar.
Right.
What's going on here? And so we went back and forth and really couldn't get them to concede. And that brought about the need to go back to Congress and say, we need clarification in the law.
Yeah.
And so we have been pursuing that clarification under something that we call the RPM Act. And we've had some really great support for the RPM Act on both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats. We need to get that thing pushed through this year. Yeah. And I want to talk to your viewers out there about how they can participate in that.
Absolutely.
We've got a website that we have it's saveourracecars.com. Saveourracecars.com. And if you can't find it there, you can come to the SEMA website and you can find how to get involved and be able to write your member of Congress. We've got a campaign going right now that makes it really easy for folks to call their member of Congress, let them know they need to support the RPM Act, and when it comes up for a vote, to vote in favor of the RPM Act. It's just clarifying the law to say what we've been doing and expecting for years and years, that if you take a vehicle and a street vehicle and you change it, and the purpose for that is to dedicate it to racing, that vehicle is, and that modification, it isn't illegal. You guys have probably seen out there some of the attention on social media where EPA has come in and levied enforcement actions against some smaller businesses that are doing racing modifications, and it's just not fair. It's just not right, and we need to get that stuff stopped. So we really need help. We've also got something new with SEMA that allows folks out there who are enthusiasts to get involved and engage in these efforts with us a little more directly. So we've created a new individual membership category, and it's open to all enthusiasts.
Really?
Yeah. So to find that, if you go to SEMA.org/individual member. SEMA.org/individual member. You'll be able to join SEMA now directly. And this gives you the opportunity to be informed, to be educated, to participate with us in some of the things we're doing to try and support the lawmakers who help our industry, that sort of thing. So it's really exciting. It's a first time that we've done something like this. We have our SEMA Action Network, and we urge the folks who are involved in the SEMA Action Network now to take it a step further, become an individual member, and come on over.
So, by becoming an individual member, is that something that the individual who is the enthusiast, right, the diehard car individual, who might not be in the industry, can now go to SEMA? They could join under this individual membership and now be a part of the organization and actually have a say and find out all that information? Is that why that's fantastic?
It's exciting. It really is. And I think it's going to help us all protect the rights of the people who love cars and trucks, to be able to modify and enjoy those vehicles. SEMA takes care of a lot of different fronts. It's not just emissions. We're working hard, for example, to keep the off-road lands available for off-roading. We work hard on at the state level. We have a lot of state issues where raising and lowering of vehicles, vehicle lighting, exhaust noise, titling requirements for older vehicles, that sort of thing. We work all 50 states, and we let the enthusiasts in those states know when there's an issue that comes up that we need support with, and it makes all the difference. getting those letters, getting those calls, letting those lawmakers know there are people out here who care, and we're voters.
Yeah. Well, that's very true. And I mean, as a, I'm an East Coast guy originally, but having been in California for 10 years, one of the reasons that I moved to this state was because it was the hot rod culture capital of the world, right? It really is. And when you go back and when you have it, like I have a bunch of vehicles. The newest one is 20 years old plus, right? So, and the reason for that is because I can still tinker, I can still work on them, and I can still repair them by myself. But if there isn't a reason whereby I can improve a vehicle, and I think that's what part of the problem is, especially in California, even if you can prove that you're enhancing the performance of a vehicle from an emissions standpoint to make it burn cleaner than it did originally from the factory, the fact that you're not allowed to do that, and it's like if I want to convert one of my old trucks to EFI from carburation, and I could prove that it's going to burn cleaner, the fact that California keeps telling me, yeah, you can't do that, you throw your hands in the air and you're like, what are you talking about? You're like, here's a product from a great aftermarket company that helps the environment, that helps improve performance, that gives me better fuel economy overall, and yet you're saying no.
Right.
That drives me insane. I just don't understand it.
No, it's frustrating. It really is. It's frustrating for all of us. And one of the things I mentioned at the top of the program, we were talking about the SEMA show and being busy. SEMA's got a lot of different things that we're working on. And one of the things that we've done is to build out a product development center here that we call the SEMA Garage. And we actually have
been there.
We've had it. You've seen it. So you've been to the emissions test lab. We provide our members an opportunity to come in, not just access emissions testing equipment, but we have that staffed with knowledgeable people who are able to help those members understand that process and then ultimately take those test results to the California Air Resources Board for that certification process and help them get through that certification process. And one of the problems that the industry has is that there's a bottleneck over there. You take those applications in and it takes a long time to move that stuff through. Yeah. And it's discouraged a lot of the companies in the industry from participating in the process. They're in business. It's a competitive business. Getting to market is important. But to your point, there are a lot of products that are emissions compliant, and yet the regulatory process is such a bottleneck and such a challenge that these companies are oftentimes put off from doing that. And we're trying to change that. We're trying to improve it. One of the things that we've gotten accomplished at the federal level for the states that EPA has jurisdiction over, which is most of them, EPA no longer requires certification from the California Air Resources Board for a company to be able to support that their vehicle or that their part is emissions compliant. So now a company can do the emissions testing, get a positive result, keep that testing in a file, and if EPA comes knocking, that's adequate, what they call reasonable basis to demonstrate that the part is in compliance. That's a huge thing because for at least states that aren't controlled by California, you're now able to skip that bottleneck step. You just do your testing, get that work done. So SEMA is really trying to help and encourage in different ways the opportunities for our members to get their market to, or their product to the market in compliance and not be harassed by the regulators, and have their customers know that these products are going to be compliant as well. One of the things we're doing, the popularity of that lab here in California has been such that we're now building a second lab in Detroit. We're going to have another SEMA Garage and Product Development Center there, which will have an emissions lab. It's going to help a lot more of these companies be able to get through that queue quickly and get those great products out to the marketplace.
So, I mean, that's fantastic. We actually at Hemmings, we use the SEMA Garage. We filmed a series called Road to Improvement, and we worked in the SEMA Garage earlier this year. And I think a lot of companies might not know the SEMA Garage is available to them. I mean, I actually didn't know. And then we went down and saw the facility, and I was like, oh my goodness. One, the facility is beautiful. Two, like you said, it's staffed with very knowledgeable individuals. Two, it's kind of like a little aftermarket oasis, so to speak, if you want to go in and you want to test parts and you want to install parts.
Yeah.
So for those out there that have never heard of the SEMA Garage, look it up because it is a massive resource that if you are not utilizing, you are absolutely missing out.
Yeah, and one of the great opportunities for anyone who hasn't come here, we do measuring sessions. So a lot of times SEMA will work with the car makers and get advanced models in the SEMA Garage that allows the industry to come in and begin developing parts for those.
Yep.
And we made that up with another service that we have, a cooperative service with the car makers, where our member companies are able to actually get to a library of CAD files so that they're able to see and use through computer assisted design the blueprints that basically are the vehicle, and be able to begin developing product and get that product going. In cases where there isn't information available through that tech transfer program, we have a team here that brings those vehicles in and actually scans them and creates those CAD files. So it's a great program. It helps our members deliver product sooner that's really dialed. And it's just an example of some of the tools that are available to folks at the SEMA Garage and in that product development center.
Okay. I think it's all fantastic stuff. And like, this is one of I think the great reasons, in talking about this stuff, things that people just might not understand about SEMA, because I think, you have a lot of people out there that know SEMA, but they know the SEMA show itself, but they don't really understand how integral SEMA is in protecting the rights of the automotive enthusiast, not only from an emission standpoint, but from a product standpoint and everything else. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of brings me to another thing, which has to do with the OEMs a little bit, but like the Right to Repair Act, right? Because you have that's coming up, and everybody is saying, well, what do you mean I can't work on my own vehicle now? Now, as we know, everything is becoming more complex. You take a vehicle from 20 years ago, you put it up to a vehicle right now. 9 times out of 10, if you open the hood, at least for me anyway, I open the hood and I'm like, I'm not going near that. It's because most of the engines nowadays are covered by, massive body cladding and everything else. The manufacturers don't want you to get in there. But as enthusiasts, that's kind of ingrained. Like, the first thing I still do, regardless of the car, even if it's like a test car, is I pop the hood and I'm like, all right, what's where and how do I play with it? How do I get to it if I need to? So
it's funny you mentioned the matter of when we started in the industry and all the change that we've seen, right? One of the things that, if you've been around that long, you can kind of track is that the younger generations of enthusiasts, they are not as put off by the new stuff as we are. Because that's right. We're like, hey, this isn't what we expect to see. We don't want to have to mess with this. For folks who came up with that, especially the ECU, the ECM, working with it from a tuning standpoint, from a reprogramming standpoint, that kind of stuff. That is just the way that a lot of younger enthusiasts grew up tuning.
That's right.
Vehicles. And they find it interesting and challenging, and they're not so put off by it. But coming back to your point, there is an increasing amount of technology. We do see a lot of challenges with that. And it's one of the things that SEMA is working really hard. Part of the reason we're building that facility in Detroit is to be closer to the suppliers of those systems, closer to the car makers, so that we're able to understand what does a vehicle come equipped with, how does the system work, and if you want to modify, what are you going to have to know, and what are you going to have to do to those safety systems and different technologies in order to accommodate this modification. And it's complicated on the one hand, but anything that one person can make or do, another person can understand and be able to work with if we're given the freedom to do it. So we're working hard on that right to repair aspect. We're working hard on the idea that you need to keep these systems open and available, because once I buy the thing, it's mine. And
Right. Yes. One would think.
I want to be able to repair it. I want to be able to modify it for my uses, the things that I want to do with it, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the right to repair is really an important part of this, because in this country, once a vehicle is out of warranty, you got about 70% of the repair work being done by independents or by people.
That's right.
Some aspects of it doing it themselves and so forth. And you've got to allow that to continue. There isn't, as ambitious as the car makers and the dealers might be, there isn't enough capability out there to take care of all that maintenance, right?
Correct.
And we believe in a competitive system in this country, and it helps keep the cost of repair down when we have the opportunity for independents to participate. So we're out there working with the other automotive aftermarket trade associations. The collision repair industry, by the way, is affected by this.
Sure.
To try and make sure that those pathways and availability to get into those systems and into the vehicle and be able to repair and modify it, stay open and stay available.
That's fantastic, because I mean, for guys like us that have kind of come up with through carburation and EFI and everything, and now we're going to electrification where everything has screens and everything. Will that ever be something that I'm going to do as a hobbyist? Am I ever going to plug a laptop into an OBD2 port and start playing around? Odds are no, just because that's not what I grew up with. That's not what I learned, right?
Not what you did.
Exactly. However, you talk to some of these kids right now, and when I say kids, I mean kids that are 16 and up, that this, like you said, is second nature to them.
Yeah.
And it's not. To somebody like me, I look at that and it terrifies me. To them, they're like, dude, just come here. Just sit down and, like, you know how to work a computer? I'm like, yeah, then, like, you can do this. And it's just a different form of hot rodding. It's just a different type of enthusiast, right?
You mentioned the different changes in technology along the way. And one of the first ones to really go in this direction was OBD. And I was around and involved in our government affairs efforts when OBD came along, and we had to sue the EPA to keep those systems open then. And we were as an industry successful. But the car makers were forecasting, you guys are never going to be able to figure these systems out. You're never going to be able to work with this, and so on and so forth. And I just raise it as an example to say that if you've watched this long enough, again, anything that one person can make, engineer can make, another engineer can understand and work with.
That's right.
And although it isn't what you and I grew up with, it is what a lot of other people have grown up with, and they continue to make their way and to thrive. However, we are going to need the help of all the enthusiast voices out there, all the people in the industry, when we get to these places where, by regulation, they're suggesting or they're taking the approach that we need to lock those systems up. And concerns like cybersecurity, so people can't hack into vehicles and be up to mischief with that. Those are things that are going to be on the other side of that argument. And we're going to need to work really hard to establish ways that vehicles, that information that's sensitive like that can be kept segregated, but the opportunity to actually repair and modify and work on your vehicle remains a channel that's open.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more.
But we're going to need help. We're going to need that's why we're building things like the SEMA individual membership, that we're going to need to be a force that people, I think most lawmakers and folks in these regulatory agencies have no idea the number of people out there who are part of the automotive culture, who love the automotive lifestyles and participate in, and they don't know about the business element that supports that, and all the jobs that are connected to that, and the tax base that's connected to that, and ultimately to the legislators, the number of voters who are attached to all of this. And SEMA is right at this point in time taking a step to really, it's a transformative step to become more of an organization that is speaking to the public and speaking to policymakers and participating, because what you're seeing is a media wave out there that's suggesting that the internal combustion engine really should be done away with, and so forth. And we've got to be we've got to be the factor. SEMA's got to be the factor that helps organize and bring the voice and bring that information out to both the public to get more support from our enthusiast body, but also directly to lawmakers and policymakers in Washington. And I think when we make that point and when we are able to get their attention, people love, we aren't the only ones who love cars and trucks. It's an interesting and helpful thing that everybody's got one in their driveway, and every legislator has voters who have them in their driveway. So, correct. The right to repair and the right to be able to enjoy cars and trucks is not something that, is for a lot of these people that are in Congress and in Washington. They understand it. You definitely have people who are hell-bent on doing away with automobiles altogether. But and unfortunately, I think they get too much voice. They get too much of the media time. That's what we have to. That's what we have to balance. That's what we have to go work to try and make sure that our voice is heard and that our point of view is understood and that people know how important this is.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think, to your point, there's so much media out there whereby, if you believe the media, in 5 years, the gas engine's going to go away and it's never going to be seen again. Right. And that's simply not the case. You have people that are coming out and they're being like, petrol engines are outlawed. They're not going to be produced anymore and blah, 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 blah. Will we eventually go down that road? Possibly, but it's not going to be for a long time. And when you consider the millions upon millions upon millions of vehicles that are on the road now, not only in the United States, but around the world, right? And the accessibility, I'm sorry, but the fact of the matter is, the world is not going to all of a sudden cut off the petrol engine just because, the government says to. It physically cannot. We are so dependent upon it right now,
And there are a lot of really good reasons to support what you're saying. We could talk about the necessary infrastructure to deliver the kind of power. I mean, here in California, we have rolling blackouts in the summer. I was
just going to say that.
And by the way, we're the state that has made the most inroads on electric, right? We're the state that is at the forefront. The matter of cost, the matter of disposal of all of the byproducts that are associated with these. They are all things that have to be dealt with. But I think it will happen. It will happen over time. And yet what gets ignored, and one of the things that we need to bring some voice to, is the improvements that have been made in terms of fuel economy, horsepower, and emissions with the internal. We are in the golden age of the internal combustion, and it's never been.
Question.
I mean, we're delivering to the dealerships vehicles that are at 700 horsepower and they comply with the emissions requirements. I mean,
and they get like 25 miles to the gallon, which is crazy.
So between the fact that we aren't going to go electric overnight and the matter that we've made such progress with internal combustion engine and can continue to make that progress, it's going to be part of the formula. That, in my estimation, the reality is that for a good number of years, there will be a mix, and you're going to see that the internal combustion engine plays a role going forward for a long time. Now, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be standing up to help understand what some of the truths are and what some of the fallacies are about the electric engine, because I think there's a lot of unanswered stuff out there that's a zero emission vehicle. It's not a zero emission vehicle. It takes, in most instances, it takes the combustion of some sort of fossil fuel to
to make the electricity,
powering these vehicles. So there are just a lot of elements of it, I think, that we need to bring balance. And I think our industry is going to have an opportunity for a good long time. I want to say at the same time, in the same fashion that we've seen with so many different technologies, our industry and enthusiasts are going to want to modify these vehicles too. There are opportunities as electric vehicles begin to roll out. It's pretty exciting to see that it's moving now to pickup trucks, because a lot of what happens with a truck is utility, and having basically a generator in the vehicle to
The
be
nice
able to
thing.
all kinds of cool stuff. I mean, just think of the off-road and backcountry capabilities that you'll have with that kind of power available, and the torque is just crazy. And for people who have experienced straight line acceleration in a Tesla ludicrous mode, that kind of thing, it's attracting a lot of people who are enthusiasts. And I think the matter that the Europeans are ahead of us on this, and you're going to see all the performance makes, BMW, Porsche, Audi, Mercedes-Benz, they're going to be bringing, and already are, really great performance vehicles that are electric vehicles. And so you'll see, I think, a blending in and an opportunity for people to enjoy modifying those vehicles as well. And people already are looking at how to get more horsepower out of those. Is it a whole new and different kind of thing? Yes, but usually the car maker doesn't manufacture to the max. They're in the middle, and it's often for cost reasons. And that's what's given our industry the opportunity to come in and offer improvements, ever since the first vehicle rolled off the assembly line.
Well, I think you made a great point with a great word, and that word was balance, right? I think there has to be that. It was interesting. I'm in Northern California, up in the Bay Area, and I went to Sonoma Raceway last week. And you had, old school 70s, 60s, and 70s muscle cars that were pulling wheelies off the line, and they were running, 10, 11 second quarter miles. And then somebody showed up with a Tesla Plaid that just rolled in, put a seatbelt on, flat-footed it, and ran a 970 at like 148. And everybody's jaw just hit the floor. And then the guy got out and had a Coke, and everybody was like, "What? Are you kidding me?" But what was very interesting to see was that the traditional hot rodders, the big block guys that really kind of sweated to get that car into the tens, no one looked at that electric car. No one looked at that Tesla and said anything negative. They just looked at it and said, "Oh my God, that is simply amazing." And that the owner of that car was then surrounded by the traditionalists. Yeah. And it wasn't a conversion, but man, did you see the eyebrows go up, and the conversation started. And that was, for me, that was very interesting, because I didn't expect that. But it was also great to see, because when I think about the aftermarket, we talk about going to shows like SEMA, right? We know you're going to start to have, because there already are, EV conversions and things like that. And again, not a bad thing, just a different thing that has that balance between combustion and EV. And the hot rodders are going to jump on that bandwagon, because that's what we do, right?
I really think that's true. And you've got dyed-in-the-wool people who will say never, right? But you've got a lot of folks who really look at the performance characteristics of it and respect that and say, that's cool. I can see where that's got a place. And so it will, and especially among generations who are growing up more with that kind of technology. But it's funny. I often talk to our team here, and when we gather people in the SEMA world, about our job today is to make sure that we're taking steps and doing things so that the industry, the hobbyists, and SEMA are all cooking along 20 years from now. 20 years that I've been involved here, and really 30 years altogether.
Sure.
Sadly, it went by like that.
I know.
And so, the actions that we take today are really going to be important in terms of how this all continues to have an opportunity to grow and thrive and be enjoyed in all the different ways that people would enjoy it. I mean, when I started, there's an interesting story that I tell. There was a copy of the SEMA magazine for the industry. So, for our members, we put out a magazine once a month. Mm-hmm. And in that magazine, there was an article, the headline said, "Do we have even 5 years left?" And it was written by somebody who'd been in the board meeting earlier that day and was a columnist and wrote in there, we're challenged. We're an industry whose customer is getting older, they're graying, and who's going to come next? And vehicle technology is making this so difficult and different that it's hard for us to keep up with it. And regulations are just about, regulating us out of business. The interesting thing about that article and that issue of the magazine, it was 1973 that it was published.
That's fantastic.
So, we've been asking these same questions and struggling with this from the beginning. And
right.
the who would have foreseen the sport compact scene?
Oh,
and a whole generation of people taking 4-cylinder engines and having a ball with them. 10 years before any of that showed up, people would have said you're crazy.
That's right.
Who would ever have foreseen that we'd be selling more pickup trucks than we sell passenger cars?
That's right. That's right.
The whole development of SUVs and all of this, it's just, and it all is fuel for our fire over on the enthusiast side. These are things that our industry and really at the end, the people who are out there, the gearheads who love cars and trucks, this is how it keeps going. And I have this little sense that every year a bunch of kids are born into the world, and some of them are going to love airplanes, and some of them are going to collect, butterflies, and some of them are going to love cars and trucks. And it's just a thing that's in some of us, right? And so I don't lose faith that there is a steady flow. We just gotta turn them on. We got to make sure that they get inspired. We got to make sure that they have opportunities. So if we do that part, I think the matter of how they'll enjoy those cars and trucks is going to be up to them, but they're going to want to do it.
Oh, I have no doubt about that. And I couldn't agree with you more. Chris, we're coming up. That was the quickest hour show. Wow, that was fast. Okay. So let me ask you this, because we covered a lot of ground. For how do people, okay, so we talked about, going to SEMA. We talked about SEMA.org/individual membership to go there. But how,
I think it's forward.
How could people, is it forward slash?
Yeah,
/ you're correct.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, SEMA.org/individual member.
Okay. What is the best way to find out more about SEMA for those that are looking to not only get into the industry, but have their voice heard, to find out information on what's going on with government regulations and how it impacts us? Where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, so I urge them to go to that individual member site. That's a great site. And then as we're making the transition, SEMA.com. So that's our SEMA Action Network. And before we created this opportunity for individual members, we've had a grassroots enthusiast base for a long time with the SEMA Action Network. So they can check that out as well. For the folks who are in the business who are looking for the authoritative information on the SEMA show, SEMAshow.com. We've had a lot of people confused, asking questions, what's happening, what's going to be is the show on, and so forth. That is the place to go to get the answer. And anybody can go in there and get the status and see what's going on with the show. And then for our businesses, the SEMA website, SEMA.org, is a great resource there. So we've got different resources for the different folks who are out there in your audience, and I urge them, go check it out.
Okay, wonderful. Well, lastly, what can people expect from the SEMA show that we're going to be at in 3 weeks now?
Yeah, it's going to be a great show. One of the things that is the anchor for the show is the new products that all these companies have been working hard on. And in this case, we got 2 years worth. So
yeah, that's true. Right.
We didn't have an opportunity for a SEMA show last year. I think they're really going to be some great new products for these folks to take back and offer to the gearheads out there of the world. Going to see lots been going on in 2 years in terms of trends. Some of the cool new stuff that's happening, you're going to see that. Hoonigan's going to be there. They're going to have their Barnyard feature.
Yep.
That'll be going on. Chip Foose is doing something really special. He's bringing together first-time collection of 20 of his best builds.
Very cool.
He's never had those vehicles all collected together like that. So that's going to be awesome. Ford is going to be doing some great stuff with the new Bronco, Ford out front. Our friends at Chevy and GM are doing some cool stuff there. They're going to be highlighting their new electrified Hummer. So that's an example of the new technology we're talking about. Optima is going to be there. I think 80 of their challenge vehicles. That'll be cool. We've got this new section of the show that we're calling the overlanding experience. So for the people who are into the backcountry deal, we did this at the 19 show before we had our year off. But the overlanding thing during COVID has just exploded. So off-roading in general and getting into the backcountry experience has become a big deal. A lot of cool stuff there, a lot of opportunities people are going to see. SEMA Electrified, we're going to have a dedicated section where you're going to get to see some of the new developments there, the conversion thing that's going on, which is really neat.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so and then we've got something out there that is little known at this point, but I think this year it's really going to put it on the map. SEMA runs a competition. It's sort of like a Shark Tank for innovation, and we call it the SEMA Launchpad. And this year we are taking it out to the world. We've been capturing content video of the people who are participating with their cool new ideas and products. And then that will culminate with a program at the SEMA show where we have the finalists of the competition pitched to the judges and we'll select a finalist. And I think we have $75,000 in prize money connected to that. So we've gotten some really good participation in it. We really expect that that's going to take off. So that's a cool thing that folks will start to see a little bit more of as we get that out there and put it in social, and it's going to be televised as well.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. So for anybody out there that is somewhat, who's somewhat on the fence, don't be. It sounds like this SEMA show is poised to be one of the best ever. I know we're looking forward. Hemmings, we're going to be there. I'm going to be there. I've got all my friends are going to be there in the industry, which is great. And we are so looking forward to it. So Chris, thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for everything that SEMA does in representing the community. You know, this is like I said, we need to drive more people to SEMA to make them understand how important the organization is. But sir, thank you so much for coming on. What a great conversation.
Hey, it's great for us to have the opportunity to share all this with your audience and to energize them, because we need to make now that big step to become more of a factor out there as a voice for the industry, for the enthusiasts. Make sure that people get to continue enjoying all this, all the hobbies that they enjoy in our industry.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, again, thank you so much, and look forward to hopefully hooking up when we get to SEMA.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Take care.
Thanks for listening, folks. And again, please subscribe to the Hot Rod BBQ podcast. If you're on Spotify, check us out there. Subscribe to it on iTunes. And if you are going to go to YouTube, make sure you go to the Hot Rod BBQ podcast and hit that subscribe button, and we'll come to you every week.